See, I like to do stuff out the front. I like to do everything as front load as much as I can, do as much work as I can out the front. So like here, I box everything at time of listing. So like I'll have things like this that I'll box at time of listing because it's crazy fragile. I don't want something like that sitting on a shelf, possibly falling off a shelf, getting broken, and then I got to remove the listing. Or even worse, I sell it to a customer, go to package it and break it when I'm packaging it. If I break this, at time of listing, I just remove the listing. There's no obligation. But if I say to the customer I'm going to do something, and then I'm packaging and it breaks at time at packaging, then there's an issue. And then I got to be like, well, and I mean, if I get them real fast, they might not care, but I don't know, maybe they got excited. That was like their grandma's thing from 30 years, and they've been looking for it for 30 years. Then, they find out I broke it, kind of deal. But I'd rather do the front end work and get it all out. So yeah, there's that. And like, that's with anything. Like maybe instead of financing a car, you save, let's go with $200 a month. You save $50 a week, and you get $200 a month kind of deal. And after maybe 10 months, or let's go with 2 years. Maybe after 2 years, you got enough to buy that car. Okay, versus you, and let's just say after 2 years, you got let's say $4,000. After 2 years, you got $4,000 to buy a decent car. Versus you finance that car, and instead of and the car's $4,000, but because you got to pay interest and everything else on that car, got to carry full coverage and such, you're actually going to probably spend closer to $6,000 or $7,000 kind of deal. So doing all that front end work, getting everything out the front end, mind you still got to jump into stuff. You still got to do stuff. I mean, you can plan to your heart's content, but you still got to do stuff. But it is nice to do all this stuff on the front end, get everything set up and do everything on the front end. And maybe you find out that, in doing that too, maybe you find out you need that car and you want to get to like $3,000. Well, you can still buy a good car for $3,000 kind of deal, but you can't, versus financing a car, you might just say, screw it and finance a car that's like $8,000 or $10,000 kind of deal. And depending on how new the car is, you can throw a zero behind that. So I mean, I like to do all the front end work up front. And that's with almost everything. If I can do the front end work, get it all up front, that's good. Like if I'm doing a transmission clutch, I'll pull the engine. Do all the seals, do the radiator change and all that. Because time-wise, it's usually not a huge amount more deal depending on the vehicle, to pull the engine and all that. I'll pull the engine with the transmission in like a square body truck. I'll pull the engine with the transmission, get all that out, check everything over, find out I got the huge oil leak in the back of this oil pan kind of deal. Well, I found that now. So instead of doing that, now I can actually do the oil pan while the engine's out kind of deal. And there is a limit there where you're like, well, you got to be careful with the while we're here's kind of deal. But like before I get a car on the road, I like to go through and just give it a once over, versus just jump into it and drive it and hope it doesn't break, or doing repairs as you go kind of deal. Now, these repairs going to have to be done, yeah, but it's good to check things over kind of deal. And just do all the front work out the bat. Kind of deal. I'm in my photo room here. I actually got to hook some more lighting up. But that's one of those deals where you just go and do what you got to do kind of deal. And do all the front end work out the gate. Do as much of the front end work out the gate, because that way okay, here you go. I'll flip. So here you go. It got this big box right here. Okay, 21 by 20 by 9. If I get that order, cause it's boxed right now, somebody could buy this right now, and I could slap a label on it and kick it out. If I don't have this box and I just have the item sitting on a shelf, if I don't have this box and I got that item sitting on a shelf and they buy it, it might not go out today. It might go out tomorrow, because then I got to run around town finding another box. Maybe I got to go out. Maybe I got to buy, instead of a recycled box, maybe I got to go out and buy let's say $6 box. So I'm spending money on the box, and then I'm spending money to drive around town, gas money. And then I'm spending, even more important, I'm spending time. So by doing it in the front end, I know how much time I'm taking. Yes, it does take longer time to list versus just taking pictures of it, making the listing, and then setting it on a shelf kind of deal, which would take 5 minutes. This way I'm taking like 10, let's say 10 minutes, and I get it in the box, and that way there's no question. Like, I could be 10 minutes from out the door. Somebody could buy this, and I could slap a label on it and send it out that same day. How I do the system. Now, it's not for everybody. A lot of people don't do it this way. They don't do it this way. But this is how I do it, because I've always been somebody that front loads as much as I can. And like I'm saying, you can do that with everything. You can front load everything. That comes down to financing too. If you front load like an account and you do that automatically, where before you get before you see your check, $200 is taken out of that check and it's thrown into an account automatically. You don't even see it. It's front loaded. You don't even see that amount. That $200 goes into an account, and maybe even then you got another step like I do, where it hits like $5,000, and then from $5,000 that thing empties out into another account kind of deal, and it drops down to like $1,000. And so it goes from $5,000 to $1,000, and then the $4,000 goes into a different account, or an investment account, and it does that all automatically. And you front loaded all that stuff, so that instead of doing that all yourself and saying, well, I guess I'm going to do it on my own, and you actually don't do that, because it's more work too. Like I'm saying, because I'm doing all this up front, I don't have all this work. Like right now I've got, it's under 2,000. It's only like, my inventory is only like 1,300 items right now in Star. But all those 1,300 are packaged. All those 1,300 are ready to go. If I get 20 orders in a single day, it's going to take me probably 20 minutes to send those all out. All those things. It doesn't matter if it's this size box, that size box. It doesn't matter. Everything's ready to go kind of deal. It's all been front loaded. All that's front loaded. And another part of that is too, all my shipping supplies. Shipping supplies are going to go up. You can kind of see I'm running out of bubble wrap there. All my shipping supplies are done. I don't have to worry about shipping supplies going up. That's already accounted for. The only thing I need to account for is actual shipping prices changing. And even then, I have policies. I have an $8. Wait, no, go back. I got a 5. I got an 8. I got a 10. And then from then, it goes $250. All the way up to like $160, and then I'm actually going to incorporate freight past that. I'm able to do that, and that way I try to stay within $2 of the actual amount. So small box that weighs, let's say 8 ounces. If it weighs like 8 ounces, it used to be under $5. Now it's like $6. So it falls into $8, and then I'll charge them $8 because it's over $6 kind of deal. But I try to stay there, and then that allows for a lot of adjustability. So in the future, they're going to go with that. And then when you actually get to the bigger stuff like this, it doesn't change as much. So I can actually, this is probably going to be probably $30, 25 to 30 off the top of my head. I have it, like I'm saying, but I can run the exact numbers. I can run these exact numbers to my furthest point and find out what it's actually going to be. That's 21 by 20 by 9 inches tall. This is figuring for UPS because it's a big package, and USPS is probably going to charge me more. And it weighs 11 pounds. So these are some decorative figurines. They're just huge figurines. So, but yeah, it's just a kind of deal. And another part of that is by doing this, I can use a heavier duty box. So this, let's see if I can flip around the right way here. So this box is heavily rated. It's rated for a 40-pound crush on the sides. It's rated to hold 80 pounds. Look at all these things. This 2024 box. It's rated. So like that's another reason why I use the boxes. It's because most of them are rated higher than the other box. I don't think this one's got a rating on it. Most of them are rated higher than the boxes that you can get off Amazon and such. So yeah, and this says 20 by 19 by 8. And I said 9. And yeah, because it's UPS, and UPS goes an inch over. So this is actually like 20 and a quarter. USPS will let you get away down to 20, but UPS goes up the extra inch. So, and this is 98% going to go UPS. That's why I'm going with that. That's another thing too. You got to plan on all this stuff. Look at a box this size. It's probably going to go UPS. I can figure that out ahead of time. Versus something like this, 13 by 13 by 6. That's actually a 12 by 12 by 4. But like I'm saying, it's actually 12 by 12 by 4.5. So that's why it's 5. I don't know how the heck they got 4 out of that deal. But it is one of those deals where you just look at it. And like I'm saying, I got all this out front. And if you front load everything, I'll flip you around. Load everything, it is better in my opinion. It makes life so much simpler because you don't have to worry about it. You got stuff done. Maybe instead of waiting for the snow to fly and wondering, I got the snowblower in the shed right now. I'm going to check it out tomorrow before the snow gets here, kind of deal. Because I want to make sure I got all that front loaded before I get 3 feet of snow and then the snowblower doesn't start, kind of deal. Because it hasn't been run since 3 years ago, kind of deal. Maybe something like that. Same thing with the lawnmower. Maybe before you fire it up for the spring, you go ahead and just check everything out. You just front load all that work. Do all that work, check everything out, maybe sharpen the blades, all that stuff. You do all that work out the front so that you're not halfway in the yard and the thing dies, kind of deal. Now, would that happen? Possibly. Stuff breaks. It still might do that. Even with the best of planning, might still have issues. But you don't know. That's why I front load as much as I can. To front load as much as I can. And get all that done so that it's not an issue, and all that stuff. And things aren't perfect. Things are, all that. But if you front load all that stuff, if you front load as much as you can, it'll make the back end a lot easier. It'll make stuff tons easier if you just front load as much as you can. Now, at some point, you got to actually do the stuff. You got to make the jump to actually do the stuff. You can't plan all day long. But if it's stuff that you're going to be doing anyway, like I'm saying, if I got to package this stuff anyway, I'd rather front load it all. Now, the downside to that is I'm spending the time at the front end to do that. So I am losing out. I'm making up less listings a day because I'm packaging it at time of listing. But like I'm saying, I got the 1,200 items or something like that. I got like 1,200 items. They're ready to go. All of them are ready to go. If I get 20 orders a day, I can seriously ship it out within probably like 40 minutes because I got to run around. I got my whole house here. I'm going to run around the whole house to probably grab all those things. But I can seriously set them all up in a pile, put them in little totes, bring them upstairs, maybe grab them from outside, bring them inside, set them in this little room here I got here for all my packaging stuff. Set up my scales. Here's 3 scales. I got the low scale that almost always stays on. Got the super light scale. And I got the heavy scale. And set all that stuff up. And there's my printer and all that. And like I'm saying, I got extra labels and extra boxes and all this stuff. And I'm all set up. And kind of deal. I want as much front loading as I can. Because it just makes stuff easier. If you got to package stuff, maybe you do a Whatnot show. Okay? Reason why I'm not on Whatnot yet. Maybe you do a Whatnot show and you sell $800 or 800 items in a night. Great. Now you got to package all that stuff. Well, did you plan on how you were going to package it? Did you plan on how you're going to put them aside and all that? Maybe before the Whatnot show or whatever live show, maybe you set up 80 totes. Okay? So that all you need to do is you take the item and you throw it in a tote. And you grab another item and you throw it in a tote. And maybe you have it so that you just Big Bunny 57. Big Bunny 57 bought this. Okay, I write Big Bunny 57, I put it in the tote, then everything that Big Bunny 57 buys goes in that tote. And then you know exactly. But you gotta front load that stuff. You can't be doing that during the show. You can't, or after the show, even worse. You can't be watching the video, spend 3 hours watching the video. What did Big Bunny 57 buy? Well, he bought this. Fast forward, go to here. Oh, he bought that. Okay, and right here, he bought that. I don't know. I haven't done Whatnot. Maybe they actually show you all that information, but there you go. And maybe you actually mix some stuff up. Maybe you got multiple items. Maybe you got a figurative or a figurine, and you got 6 of them. Well, 5 of them had issues, and the 6th one didn't. Kind of deal. Which one did they sell? which one had who bought the one without the issue, kind of deal. And all that stuff. And that way you know, if you set up totes kind of deal beforehand, you can put it in the tote, and then there you go. Maybe if you fill the one tote up, you'd fill another tote up. And like I'm saying, maybe you got like 50 totes set up, or 50 whatever set up. And you just set that up kind of deal. Maybe you got, I don't know, maybe you got bags, trash bags for like clothing. You throw all the stuff in the all the clothing inside the trash bags as you're going along. Mind you, you'd fold it all and such afterwards, but this is just the front end. You're just figuring this stuff out. Maybe you're putting stuff in poly bags as you go. Maybe you're actually, spending I think it's like 2 cents for a poly bag. Maybe you're putting it right in the poly bag as you go, and then you're throwing it in the tote. And then if they buy one thing, you're good to go. If they buy 50 things, you throw all the polys in a thing, and then there you go. You're at 2 cents, but that way you actually planned it. When I sell moldables, they all go in a single box, almost always. Not 100% always. Usually if I get usually if it's under 10 items, they'll go in a single box. And what that does is it allows me to simply, same size box. They're all the same size box, like it'll be a 4x4x6 box. So I'll sell all the things in like a 4x4x6 box, and that will allow me to tape all those boxes together. Now, there's a downside to that, but then there's an upside to that. The upside is if they do a return on that, all they got to do is send that one box back. They don't have to send back a let's say an 8x10 box. They got to send back a one 4x4x6 box. Simple as that. And that makes returns easier on everybody. Now, it's not perfect, kind of deal, but it's a consideration. And also, by putting those boxes together, I just made a really strong box too, versus all that. Like I'm saying, just front load as much as you can. And I like front loading on almost everything. I front load everything, and it makes your life a lot stressful. If I gotta find this box, and I only have 2 hours to find a box, I'm gonna be stressed. If I don't have this box in stock, I'm gonna be stressed, kind of deal. Because now I gotta drive around town looking for a 20-inch box. Where's the 20-inch box? Is that a U-Haul box? No, they're usually 16 inches. Kind of deal. Is it? I don't know. You'd have to find a 20-inch box, like within 2 hours. And maybe you can. Maybe you got one sitting out back somewhere. I know I do. I got tons of boxes. But like I'm saying, you got to front load all that. And it's not for everybody. Because I box everything at time of listening, I can stack the boxes. I can't stack glass stuff. I can't stack these things, but if they're in boxes, I can stack them. That's another part of it. It does take more room. That's another thing. You got to figure all this stuff out. Do you got room to put it in boxes? Depending on what it is, you might. Usually it doesn't take up a ton more room than all that because you're able to stack. If you got a shelf full of glasswares, you can't stack that stuff. If you put it in boxes, you can stack it. And then if one falls off a shelf, you're not in a bad place. Also, if something does happen, maybe you got a cat. I don't have a cat. But maybe if you got a cat and they love knocking stuff off shelves. Well, if it's in boxes, it's not the end of the world. The cat probably won't even jump up there if it's got stuff up there. There's another consideration. If you do have a cat and you sell stuff that maybe the cat's jumped on the shelf and rubbed up against something without you knowing, mind you, you ship it out, somebody's allergic to cats. You don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I ain't watching the house 24/7, 365 kind of deal. But there you go. You throw it in a box. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's done and it's ready to go and you can do whatever with it. And ship it out and stack stuff up. But I do all the front end. I do all the front end out the work. Out the end because it really works. I like it. And I try to front load everything I can. Get as much as I can, like I'm saying. Finances, investing, any kind of side projects I get, I try to get as much of the stuff before I tear into something. If I know I'm going to do a brake job, I'm going to ask myself, what do I need to do this brake job? Okay, order those parts. While I'm waiting on those parts, I'm going to watch a video and see, or beforehand, maybe I'll watch a video. Either way, I'm watching a video on it just to see, okay, here's your little trick for how you get this off. Here's a special trick that you would have had to figure out, on maybe maybe you're changing a electrical component on your car, and you got to take a sensor off. Well, maybe there's a trick to pulling that clip off so you don't actually break the clip. Kind of deal. So you just watch that video and front load everything before you do the thing, and then when you get to that thing, you can, oh yeah, I got to pull the tab out, and then I got to slide the thing to the left, and then while shaking my foot to the right, kind of deal, to get this off, kind of deal, and all that stuff. You got to know how you got to do that, because it really is. If you front load all that stuff, otherwise you're gonna, how the heck do I do this? And then you're gonna pull out your phone there while the sun's going down and try to figure it out. Whereas if you front loaded it, okay, I got to do this, and it's off in 5 seconds, versus watching a video for an hour, and figuring out that one little special trick, where you could have spent that same hour, but spent it front loading it, while you were, I don't know, waiting in line, waiting in line for groceries or whatever. Maybe not an hour, but you know what I mean. Maybe while you're waiting in line for whatever, you could have done that and just watch that video and say, oh yeah, okay, here's the trick for that. Or maybe there's somebody that has, here's the trick to get these tabs out without breaking them in a short little 2-minute video. But front load all that. I like front loading everything. Front load as much as you can, because it really does. It makes stuff so much easier. Like, I'm setting up stuff right now that I won't be doing for like 3 months. I'm setting up freight right now. I'm front loading it. How do I do this? How do I build the crate? How do I ship this stuff? Who do I use to ship it? What's the policy I should do? And I'm going to ship freight items in one day. Just like I'm doing this stuff, just like I'm doing this, I'm going to do freight. Same way. I'm going to have stuff in the pallets ready to go, already packaged, so that when somebody buys something, if they're coming out of town and they see something in my store that's a freight item, let's say I bought some electric motors today. Let's say one of those electric motors weighs 200 pounds, and they're coming with a pickup, maybe driving up from Ohio to northern Michigan because they're on vacation, and they see a thing on eBay. Oh, cool, electric motor. Hey, yeah, it's pretty cheap. Cool. Okay, it's freight. Cool. He's got this set up too. Well, I could just swing in there and grab that. Sweet. And it's local pickup, and it's one day. So all he's got to do is he's got like within an hour, if I'm home, if he's within my little window there, within my pickup window, I'll be able to drop that out or pretty much put it in the back of his truck, kind of deal. And because it's already in a crate, if they decide to use freight the same day, they might be able to get a carrier, and the carrier can possibly be like, okay, cool, it's one day, I'll be there tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Does that work? Works great. Stuff's all ready to go. Because it's all ready to go, that saves the customer a couple days. Which makes it to the customer faster, gives the shipper a better time instead of maybe they're already in the state that I'm in, and then they want to go, and they're like, well, I can actually grab this before I leave the state, because in 3 days they might be 500 miles away, or 1,000 miles, and not 1,000, like 700 miles away in 3 days. So they might be able to get that load and get to that customer faster. Like I'm saying, I'm doing all that ahead of time, but I'm front loading all the information. I'm making the GTP to tell me how to do all the stuff. I'm figuring out all the stuff on that end. I'm figuring out how to make the crates. I'm figuring out the best way to afford the crates. I'm figuring out how to keep the crates light but strong, kind of deal. I'm front loading all that information so that I know. And while I'm doing that, I'm not just wasting time doing that. While I'm doing that, I'm still doing other things. I'm doing all the smalls. I'm figuring that out before I do all the big stuff. But I'm figuring it out. I'm front loading everything. And that's just an example. And that'll allow me to do 1 day shipping on freight items, which almost nobody does, because it really is, you got to build a crate. Again, if you got to build a crate, even if you're running this full time, it's probably going to take you 5 hours to go to the store, get the material, cut it up, build the crate, put it all together, Get a final weight on it. That's another part of it. Get a final weight on it, and and uh, and have it all ready to go within 3 days. And that's why a lot of people, they do pick 3 days. And I'll have one day, which is going to make should make my stuff higher in priority, because it'll be have the little star to it. And I imagine there's not too many people that have 1 day freight stuff that's ready to go, where basically if they're heading up and if they're within my little time window, I got a 5-hour pickup window. If they're within my pickup window, we're good. Now, if I got 3 feet of snow out front, that's going to slow things down. But if there's not snow on the ground, I see no reason why somebody couldn't buy something, have a truck to my house within an hour, and there we go. Kind of deal. I'm going to have eBay freight set up and carrier freight set up. So if they want to choose a carrier to pick it up, they can do that. And like I'm saying, that's something that I had to figure out. Do I want to set up freight, or do I want to have them set up freight? I don't want to set up freight. I'm going to set up basically eBay freight and their freight. And that's going to eliminate tons of headaches on my end. Kind of deal. And it really does. It makes it so much easier. By front loading all that stuff, by making those crates, and I'll make videos and all that of it. But by making those crates and front loading all that work, I know that if they buy it, they can get it. It's like I'm saying, I got everything up that I have listed is boxed. Is ready to go. If I'm 10 minutes out the door and somebody buys that item, I can have it packaged and gone the same day. I have 1 day handling. Even though I have 1 day handling, I just have that so that if somebody orders something and I'm on the way to the post office, it's not the end of the day. Or worst case, I do have probably 30 items that still have to be packaged from way back when I first started, like books and such. I do have that. Or maybe, like Friday stuff won't go out till Monday kind of deal. But it's one of those deals, or if there's like a holiday. If there's a holiday, that 1 day really comes in handy. But it really is. That's why I have 1 day, not same day. I could do the little trick where you do the 1 day, where you do the thing where you set it for like something stupid like 7 a.m. and it's same day, but you got to order it by 7 a.m. kind of deal to go out same day. Well, okay, yeah, that anything after 7 a.m. is technically 1 day, next day. So I don't play that game. I got it set up so if you order it 1 day, it's probably going to go out the same day. But if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. But I front load all that. I front load everything because of that reason. Like I'm saying, all my boxes here. That's another thing. I got all my boxes in a huge mess right now because I'm going through and I'm actually organizing stuff, believe it or not. But I got all my stuff here, and I know, like, if I run out of boxes, I can run all this bubble wrap. That's bubble wrap there in the corner there. I can run bubble wrap until I absolutely run out. Right now I got one thing. So when I had 4, like 2 weeks ago, not even that, probably like 12 days ago, I had 4 boxes of bubble wrap, and there's that right there. So I'm running through bubble wrap. But I know when I get down to that one box, I got to order a box, but that doesn't stop my operation. I can keep going. I can actually use all that bubble wrap down to nothing, or I can change box sizes. If I know I'm down to like 700 feet of bubble wrap, which is one of those rolls, I can switch from huge boxes to small stuff and keep listing using that small stuff. If I didn't do that and I had, was boxing at time of listing and I had like 20 listings and I only had like 700 feet of bubble wrap, I'd have to go to whatever, your local Staples probably, and spend probably $80 on bubble wrap versus $30. Because I got to buy it now. So you got the time to get the stuff. You got to do that. You got to do that. You got to do that. And probably that's going to lead to crap and horrible packing because you're going to be taking chances on stuff. Because I only have like 40 feet of bubble wrap and I got to wrap something this size. Maybe not 40 feet. but let's say 20 feet. You only got 20 feet of bubble wrap. You got to wrap something this size. Well, that might not work. You know, maybe you're going to probably using like newspaper and it's going to look like unprofessional. So I front load all that. I front load as much as I can. Like there, I'm out of whatever the heck that is. I'm out of that stuff. The little expanding paper. That's ordered. I run it until I absolutely run out, and then I order more. Or like when I get down to that last box right there, I will when that box is open, I'll have 700 feet left, and I'll probably switch over to some smaller boxes while I'm waiting for 4 more boxes of bubble wrap to show up, kind of deal. And that way, yeah, I can peek over there and see how many supplies I have. There's some 12 by 12 by 6s. There's some, I got some 12 by 12 by 4s under the thing. And I know that way. I know exactly what boxes I got. I know how much I got. You know, I know that within 3 days I can get more boxes. But if you got to ship the thing out next day, you're screwed. So anyway, longer than I wanted it to be. That's why I front load stuff. I front load anything and everything as much as I can. And I know a lot of people it doesn't make sense to do that. But for me, it makes sense. And it's something that, like, I've done, and I always do. And it's so much less stress. Like, everybody will tell you, have an emergency fund. Have this, have that all set up. That is front loading. You're front loading for emergency. You're front loading ahead of time. For when something happens. Like I'm saying, the car thing, you're front loading ahead of time. For buying that new car, you know. Yeah, you're front loading ahead of time. If you know that your car has got 300,000 miles on it, you should probably start thinking about buying a new car kind of deal. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to either wait till it dies and hope that you're not going to get totally screwed on an interest rate, which you probably are because you're going to have to buy the car like now. You're going to be in a horrible situation versus front loading all that. And then you know you're set up, and you could take your time and pick a better vehicle kind of deal. And maybe you're not paying for the whole vehicle, maybe it's just down payment, etc. But you're front loading all that stuff. And I call it front loading. Somebody can call it whatever the heck they want. But there you go. You're front loading all that stuff, and it just makes it on the back end that when something does happen, you're prepared for it. And it's less stressful. Which means you're going to live longer, probably. You know? And all that stuff. If you're, yeah. I'm going to stop it there. There you guys go. Yep. Little thoughts. See you, folks.